All right, here we go again. Buckle up. Yeah, what I was saying is pretty funny, but when you what I was trying to explain is I guess they call it kind of polarization. It's everywhere. It's not only in politics. So when a person smokes marijuana, cannabis, when they, have a car dealership and this guy apparently, I'm sure you don't charge everybody. So I'm sure he probably has some pretty bad stuff. I don't, the spirit of Pennsylvania will go in and rip apart dealerships just because they're just not perfect. So, but when they do that, even for somebody that starts altering a couple documents instead of I'm sure there's even more documents than you charged and things more than you charged and like more than 150 things. Right? Then he starts siding with criminals. So then they're anti-ICE and they're anti-this and they're anti-that and they're pro that, and the whole thing, become a Democrat. I don't know if it's exactly becoming a Democrat, but I think that's really what's wrong with the Democratic Party is it became the anti-law and order party to a certain degree. I mean, again, Republicans have issues with that. They've had issues over the years, and it doesn't mean that they're perfect, but it means like right now in the moment. Right? So so something's coming in. So it's a spycraft extortion. Again, if I say extortion, there are cops that are dirty or part of it. Well, if you have something you can be extorted for, then that's your fault, huh? That kind of thing. But the reality is, it's not really extortion. The goal is extortion, but it's not. It's a spycraft thing because it doesn't matter what you do. Extortion means that generally, I mean, the way it works, they apply pressure and you cave somehow. Well, in these particular cases, you can cave. It doesn't matter. They're going to kill you. It's a murder contract. They play it out like extortion because extortion is accepted. They got extortion to be accepted. So now everybody they're trying to kill, they're just extorting them. Right? We're just trying to get them to shut up. And in reality, if I shut up, they'll do it 10 times as hard, which I think they just did. Right? Yeah. So the license plate, they'll say it has to do with a crime, but it's bullshit. So they take a number or name or letters or whatever it is, and they put it in front of the person every time they torture the person. And eventually you can't help but react to it. But in my particular case, it never really paid for them. Well, because they look at there's there's always new people in the deep state, and then that's what the term came up. I always call it Federico, the Federal Racketeering Organization, right? But it's federal, state, and local. You want to get on the task force, you do what they want, that kind of thing. And then you do it, and you're in, and now you're a devil and going to hell one day. So these are right, but this is what they do to people. I mean, I'm probably more resilient than the majority of them, right? But I mean, people have become mass shooters off of that same thing. So yeah, what all I was saying is, a dealer, you know, they're online, right? So somebody's trying. They can actually make you want. Like they just made me buy something I didn't want to buy, and they're laughing, but that's okay. God will get them. Right? I'm returning a couple things in wall. Anyway, it doesn't work. So, right. But again, the purchases still help me. I have to buy some stuff to get forward and get everything back to normalized. But so what'll happen is things will go. My purchases will start going normal, like everyone else, and like I usually do. I buy successful purchasing of things, and then it reverses. So they'll take. So what I was saying is, if somebody is a dealer, they can get somebody in there to buy a car, and a dealer may even give them to them for a good deal, and they say put this a plate on it. Now Satan can do that also without telling anybody anything. So from where I am, I can only investigate so far, but I know it's happening. I know the license plates are being put around. I think there are people in the government that are actually issuing them. So there are people in the Kansas government that are part of it, most likely here too. Although it could be a custom plate, I don't know. Right. When somebody comes in, you go, well, why do they want that plate? Why do they want those numbers? Could be a torture plate, trying to cause a suicide, a mass shooting, maybe sexualization. Sexualization isn't only, hey, I'm going to put sexualized material in front of you or sexualized people or both. It involves a psychological torture regimen. Like, so I was in Tyler, Texas, and they attacked like real bad. Right. And when I first got to, and then then all of a sudden all the people started coming up, and like I only see the ones that I can see, like the FBI, the big ones, like the FBI agent that's a sex criminal. Right. And if you find one FBI agent, it's a sex criminal. There's probably a few more. Right. I was that's pretty bad. But again, they did hit me pretty hard, so I got them back. That's the kind of thing you look for. Well, you're physically manipulating. I didn't touch that guy's life. I have nothing to do with it. You're physically manipulating my life and go, what about your life? What about your life? You don't have anything. Right. You committed if you're not allowed to commit felonies, then you can't do it. It's that simple. It's not like that you're just sitting back going, woo, whammy, whammy, woo. And this part of my life, it's what it all is. Right. If you hadn't even the money I had, if you hadn't blocked the purchase of a home, right. I'd be sitting in my home that I would have fixed up for how many more years? Right. Thing be probably worth almost $1 million. Would have paid like under 200,000 in like 2017. I don't know if I'd still be there. I probably would have made so much money that I already would have sold it and bought into something else. Right. So again, these are people that know how to make money, so they make sure the person doesn't make any money. So this is also what happens in the economy and everything. This is how it falls apart. They're manhandling it, or a woman handling it, and or. No, it got so big they just keep failing everybody. You get paid to fail that person's life. Then they wonder what happened to the economy, right? Yeah, right. They'll put cold cases on their victims. There's law enforcement. I'm psychic, and I communicate with law enforcement that way. So, they call me a boss, but well, they told me it was so bad that the other officers walked in and said, I think it was agents, and they said, let me see a case. They got pissed off one day. They said, let me see them fucking cases. Because he couldn't, there's no way. They said, like, within an hour, they knew that I couldn't have committed, a couple of the crimes they were trying to put on me. Within an hour. But see, because these people, the way the deep state works is once you're in the deep state, they're going to attach you to very important cases. And if the government ever comes clean about you, they lose all those cases, which you see happening in several places, but not everywhere that it's happening. Well, they just overturned a bunch of cases or something. Because a guy came up lying or something. I think it was a state trooper or something. Right. Well, again, these are like major sex crime cases and things like that, and cold cases. So they don't want to lose their cases, so they don't say anything. So that's one of the deep state scams. They put them on these big cases. But again, how it works is that some of the times, not every time, because again, sometimes there's other stuff. But one of the scams is this: so they psychologically torture this person into some sort of crime, usually a sex crime or a crime of violence. Because big name investigations. So when there's a case, they go and they go around to these people that they've tortured and sexualized, because part of like they sexualized Omar Mateen. And that's how he acted. That's when I first discovered that part of it. Because I looked up what happens. It's a form of sexual abuse. These agents are real sick. Agents and officers that do it are sick. Right. So I looked up to see what happens when somebody is sexually abused. I discovered this on my own. It didn't like I sat down and watched the video. And I went to clinical psychology, and I discovered that these actions that they're visiting against me and against, most likely a visit against Omar Mateen, because he ended up, what's a Muslim guy doing in a gay bar? Right? They did it. That's like the last time they admitted to psychologically operating someone when I brought that up. So, okay, you were there 10 months ago. Who's watching them? And I go, I know who's watching them. I said, I'd like to lie and say, no, nobody, you were careless and didn't watch them. The local and the state police are watching them and effing him. And then he went nuts and shot up that gay bar. And then they go, well, gay people should be shot up. I mean, that's really, they go with it. Instead of acknowledging their crimes and at least errors. I mean, they don't even want to say that they made any errors. Right? This is what they're doing. And then when they get it's like, yeah, somebody eventually is going to commit a sex crime if you keep operating people into sex crimes all day. So that's how they investigate it. Then they go back and look at the people that they sexualized. They will say, well, that we kept tabs on it and investigated. Like a normal cop would go in there and go, look, I don't want people killing people. I don't want people committing sex crimes. And therefore, I'm going to do the reverse of what that guy or gal's doing. Right? I want to heal people. No, you'll see that. Yeah, they run like right. Some of the agents said that over the years, my stuff made it into the FBI and other places, and they changed operation based upon what I said, but they never knew it was me. They don't allow that part of it. But it even gets worse because some people were given awards for my work and weren't even, never even thought to say, hey, this guy, I got it from this guy. Because the other agent said it's so shitty because they could still get the award because they're the ones that brought it to government. But they could at least give you credit for something. Thanks. If you go to clinical psychology and you say, what, like forensics, also, what in somebody's history could cause this? Like, see, what you won't hear from a lot of FBI people is actually to take that psychology that the person has and go back, well, they were victimized in government, or not in government, in their life, and say that it was, his mother, his father, because I did that with Charles Manson. I did it with Adolf Hitler. My one on Adolf Hitler may have been a little bit off, but I don't know. They change history on the internet, and then you can't get to it. I read some stuff about Adolf Hitler that I don't find anymore, about his childhood and things like that. My stuff was that big. They'll change the internet to change the available data. But again, now it's changing the other way because the CIA just released Project Artichoke. They're drugging people. They've drugged people. So if you go back through clinical psychology, you'll find the effects of what these psychological operators are doing as far as what it could cause psychologically, as far as violence, sexualization. And there's spells. They're devils on top of it. So they're casting spells on top of it. You don't have to believe in God to believe in spells, right? And will and all that. Some people go, well, I don't believe in God. Well, a lot of reasons why people don't believe in God is because the religions are bullshit. They're not what they were. Like even Islam isn't what it was started to be. Right? And as far as young kids being married and polygamy, that's every religion. Every culture had that up until a certain point. Now, I do agree today, things are happening in certain countries. Again, it's not quote unquote Islam, right? But it's happening in some Islamic countries that are still, ancient technology of relationship versus modern. But again, you know, we'll see in some cases. So I'm going to a different idea. Not that I'm saying, because they'll tell you that I'm saying child sex and child marriage is okay, and I'm not. What I'm saying is, in our community, the way it's applied, this is why it doesn't work. Why we can't, because everybody's a liar, piece of shit that's going against good people. They just try to distort the argument so they're not seen as criminals or they're not seen as sex criminals. Right. Right. Like, so they'll go, like, I was in Naples, Florida. And this cop was, I still don't even know if he actually went to Israel to become a rabbi or was just trying to get me to do that and they were going to kill me over there. I don't know. Because that has happened. Right. If I tried to travel overseas, it would take a little while and then I could do it. But that's when the setup was in. They actually tried to push me at that point to go overseas because they already had the assassins lined up. The key is to get in quick, and then come back with the wife. Otherwise, I couldn't go. I'm not paranoid. You're murderers. So everybody knows. So this cop, he'd be like, I'd be walking through the freaking gym, and he'd be like, the sheriff's deputy. Yeah, he'd be like, this guy over here thinks that you should date a 21-year-old, or it's just like crazy shit. I'm just like, I'm working out. I don't want to fucking hear from you. Right? I wouldn't say that, but that's it. Right? Better manners than that. But then again, you go to some 70-something-year-old college professor who marries like a 21-year-old. And not that I'm saying that should happen, but we have this thing going on here, very similar. Right? And then, of course, the only woman I could talk to that wanted to marry me was 21 years old. And they probably structured it. Right? They're online, open this up, close that. Well, what they'll do is, so if I meet a woman online, a doctor will come along. 10 years younger or something. Right. No, I'm not talking, I didn't focus on young women. It's not something I did. Right. I chatted with one, but it's strange. Whenever I chatted with them, they wanted to get married. I'm like, hey. No, I've turned down, 20, 21-year-olds and stuff like that when I was like in my 40s, right, from Asia. The one girl, I was talking to her, and I'm supporting her and all that in life. I just figured I'd talk to her and like as a friend looking for somebody, and she's looking for somebody because I'm alone. Naples is isolating me. So I talked to her like once, maybe twice, and then like the screen comes on and her family's sitting. Like all of a sudden, it's their whole family. It's a Filipino. And she's sitting there. I'm like, oh, it's like she's showing me to mom. And what is going on here? But it's a culture of people that get married. That it's a good culture as far as marriage, right? Well, the goal is to be married. I believe that is one of the goals that's supposed to be there. Well, they know if I get married, then everything they're trying gets ruined. So again, they're going to block anything that doesn't destroy my life. Right? No, they're pieces of shit. There's no evidence to this or no evidence to that they didn't contrive. Right? Thank you. Well, they try to align politically, but they're not really. Like Rick Henry's a Republican. He killed Rick Henry wasn't a bigger Republican than me. There's no way. Right? Him and the other people killed the biggest Republican. So they go, well, that makes sense. Well, no, it doesn't make sense. I'm still probably the biggest Republican. But it doesn't mean that I'm, aligned with another person's what they believe Republican is. It doesn't matter where you fall on the scale. If we run the country right, it doesn't matter if somebody's ultra left or ultra right. You're going to apply everything that works for any given problem if you're really government and the politics and all that. Well, they just use Rhino to take out the competition, but Rhinoism is bullshit. Anything you don't like, you call Rhino. You actually have to engage in some social program, or it fails things. Like, so over the years, the government figured out what worked, but then everybody abused it and took it too far one way or the other. Right. Again, people that say that they're cops and they're fighting to, they're part of narcotics distribution. Right. No, it's more than we see. What I'm pointing out is a lot of times what people say they're full of shit. No, I didn't look for young girls. I dated one that was 24 when I was 38, which really isn't that big of a spread. But it was her idea and her friend's idea. It wasn't mine. I looked pretty young back then. Right. Wasn't my idea. Right. And they, like I said, they're brainwashing people with this. So they would always come around me. Age is just a number. Age, no, it's not. It maybe 1 in a million wasn't part of it, but they just constantly trying to get you to date younger. Well, the goal is to have you have sex with a child. So again, when you see a 79-year-old man with a 15-year-old, he may have never done anything his whole entire life. But after 30 years of them beating him up because he was Jewish or whatever it was, then it happened. That's another thing they're about. Sexualizing Jewish people. Oh, they're so into it. You got Nazis everywhere. No, they'll pay in hell, man. God will get them. They would say I'm dangerous because I'm saying this. That's how they do it. They're sickos, man. One scam after another. Well, yeah, what I'm pointing out is that I'm not doing anything, but the people that are doing something are millionaires, college professor at 70 something marrying a 21-year-old or a 24-year-old. Right. And nobody even bothers them. Like all the narcos and sex traffickers. You're trying to stop stuff, but yet they're living great lives. Oh, but we arrest some of them. And you know what? God has already showed me. They'll go into prison. They'll get out of prison. They'll live a better life in prison than I'm out here. And then when they get out of prison, their life will pick right up where it left off. They'll have a great life. The people that actually, they tried to pin some sort of crime on me, that I was only present in the house. That's why nothing ever happened. And they didn't even want me there because it probably would have been exculpatory information. Right. I forgot where I was going with that. These things. They're blocking. They're trying to block it. I guess where I was going to go with it. And the people that are actually committing those crimes are living great lives. Oh, the people that actually committed the crime, they lived a normal life. I don't know if they were wealthy or not, but I know they lived a normal life and weren't bothered by the deep state. So again, it's all bullshit. And then they go, yeah, it's bullshit. We got, no, you're going to hell, all of you. Lifeport 2 is a big part of this. It's like Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. You don't know till the end of it, but you know enough that you shouldn't do it. Then they use this excuse and that excuse. Well, I don't know about psychology, and I don't know. There are simpler ways to figure it out. You don't have to know about. I'm defining what it is, what you all already see. Right? I actually have an investigation I'm running right now, only because they got in the middle and they were part of something, but I can't tell where it went because I know their pattern of behavior. And I was trying to detect that to see if they were using that here. I haven't been able to finish it because I can't see, I can't physically get where I need to get to at the right time to know where it is. So that tells me that your demonism is up, and somebody's physically eyeing my life as a devil. Don't try to say, oh, that's going to go. People in the law enforcement, they're just not supposed to be there. You're not supposed to be a crook in law enforcement, even for law enforcement purpose. Right? Because that's the whole thing. Well, it might be crooks, but it's for the good of the nation. But it's not. It's for selfish bullshit that they're into. They used to pull me over and then they stopped because it didn't fit what they were trying to say. See, that's how they do it. They run it like a spy master. Like, how do we deceive? So if they pull me over and I'm a gentleman and it goes well, then they lose. So we can't pull them over anymore. Right. No, they're devils. They know they're driving around and cursing me until something breaks. They drive around me. It's stalking. You can't use law enforcement for stalking. There's a difference between investigation and stalking. Right. If that's the world, then the world will be destroyed. That's another one they use. So I'm trying to get back to unscented candles. Well, it's just like Antifa and anti-ICE. You see, it's all anti, right? I almost believe that the Republican operator put them up to it. That's a Christian. They have anti in everything. Right. So it's pretty funny. Anti-Fa and anti-ICE both start with anti. But obviously, it's Antifa. One of God's names is Fa, so that's kind of weird. I don't know if they did that to try to manipulate me. If the spies had started Antifa, right? Well, Fa is one of the names of God. Just happens to be. Yeah, you can't sex traffic the way we see it. You can't deal dope the way we see it without cops being involved. So again, the question is where. It's obvious that cops have. And again, once you're in the deep state, then the deep state says you only investigate and arrest what we say to investigate, which has validity, but again, it's almost anti law enforcement. Right. So at that point, now this is I bought this white marble. So the one piece comes, the small one, because I tested with like an $11 small piece of marble that I'm going to turn into like a trivet. I turn into this thing by crafting it. Nice piece of marble, almost white as can be. No veining. So I said, well, I'll buy the 12-inch piece to match. Wrong. ton of veining, so I might have to return this. I'm trying to like move myself to it. It's a nice piece of marble, but I wanted one to match the other, same manufacturer. And I know there's variations, but this is like from almost bone white, just no veining, to being heavily veined. So at least it's kind of, no, it is kind of brownish veining. Some of it. I'll say it was just black veining. Well, it just doesn't match. It looks kind of out of place. I actually did find one at Ross yesterday. That was like a lazy Susan that would work where I was going to put it. It's the top of like a pedestal, and had it not a round shape, but like what, I don't know what they call it. I think a lotus shape or something. I think it's a lotus shape. So I mean, it's $20. It's like a steal, but it's just people won't buy it only because there's a couple of veins in it, like, but they're white, like real intense white veins, and it actually looks like a scratch. But I ran my fingernail over it. It's not a scratch, so it looks scratched. No, I'm just showing you what the deep state does. That's all. As far as focusing on their victim and having everybody focus on their victim. Again, it's a form of narcissism. The deep state is narcissistic. They smile at you all day, but just the same thing as a narcissist. Right? When you see all these criminals that ICE is arresting, and yet they're destroying my life, but yet these people are in great life with friends, wives, maybe three mistresses, right? And nobody's doing it. And again, the point is, and I brought that up, is that you can bring up that they're not committing crimes, but the people that committed these other crimes didn't commit those crimes until they committed those crimes. Now you can say that about everybody, but we're seeing something there. And as far as the majority of Americans, the majority of people that are busted for uh, human trafficking is they're U.S. citizens. Well, a certain number of those people are not natural born U.S. citizens. So that's what you have to look up. Well, it's a big scam. It's what Biden was into. Give them their citizenship, and then they go back and forth with people and drugs and everything else. Right. A lot of times you'll get an American citizen shot in Mexico, and they're really Mexicans that were naturalized citizens, but they could be part of a cartel or something like that also. Right. Like a mule. Not every case you read in the news is really what it is. Mules are protected by some communities. They bring money into the community. That's how they look at it. But this is also the problem that I brought up is the influence. And I brought this up beginning years ago, maybe even, probably 10 years ago, that we don't need that influence coming into our communities to tear down our communities, to say it's okay to not assimilate, that it's okay to do this and okay to do that. Right? You're running like, okay, people that were Italian, people that were Irish, they always have an aspect of their culture in their lives, but they assimilate. Jews, we assimilate. Right. I mean, some don't, small pockets and stuff, but right. Well, that's where it starts. You're going to change us to become Mexico because that's a bigger scam than the United States. That's what happened. Or whatever other country. Like I said, Tim Walz is a warlord to the Somalis. As long as their warlord is standing as governor, they're okay, right? That's what they believe. These are cultures that are primitive and shouldn't be here. That's why assimilation is very important. again, that's where the deep state came from all the drug money. They came in here, paid off the big cops the way they were paying them off in Mexico. All you have to do is find certain number of communities as like safe zones to spend the night, spend the week. Might be in the middle of nowhere. There'll be a sheriff, we usually don't investigate because there's nothing going on there, but that's like a safe community, like a safe house for drugs and human trafficking. So again, like I started saying, the law enforcement investigators turned it into spycraft and were torturing people into crime. So when they come to a community to investigate, go, okay, we got to investigate these people, but they're actually going to hire people to destroy that person's mind and life. They did it to Omar Martin. That's why he became that. That's a result of FBI. I'll tell you that for anything in local and state police doing the deep state shuffle. But when you say it, it gets a lot of, chatter and disruption in it because they were gay. They deserve to be killed. God is with that. Right. That's one thing they always do is try to convince everybody it's God. They think it's funny. Right. That God is doing this to more. And again, they reveal themselves with that because Satan's do it. That's their God. Don't worry. Well, it's weird because theoretically today it's it's going to get up to 40-something degrees. We got a bunch of snow out there. It's still cloudy, but supposedly the sun's going to partly break shit through soon. And it's all going to melt away probably today. I mean, obviously, they want me to believe that everything's going to change, but obviously, if things would change, you would just give me money. It's not that hard to figure out what happened, right? Especially with me explaining it. Not sure which way this thing goes. That worked good. Thank you, Lord. Oh, Lord, won't you buy me a Mercedes Benz? Their whole thing is based upon harming psychological patterns. So what they're doing is wiring their victims for bipolar, whatever mental illness they could wire to say, okay, my victim it's them, it's on them, they have mental illness. Well, they haven't tried in life. I mean, you can see him sitting there and he's not going out to try to meet women. They just pay another $1 million and run you around in circles and see if they can get the woman to lie about you. Well, again, like I said, life part 2. Everybody that's part of it goes to hell. That's why they discredit religion. Satan is actually discrediting religion with the religions today because they're bullshit. It's not even what's in the book. Like I said, when I woke up, Hashem, when I was talking, and we came up to this thing, I'm not sure how, it has to be Hashem because I couldn't come up with it. You were killing me. But he said, essentially the idea is this, that an atheist could read the Bible and say, wait a minute, that's not what it says. And again, I'm not going to the left side of it where it says, oh, these are the strangers. No, these are the people that beat up the guy that the Good Samaritans, rescues. Right. See? The immigrants that are coming over now are these people that would beat up the people on the trail, or beat up the guy on the trail and steal his money on the road to whatever it was. I can't even remember. Right. Well, they haven't done that yet, so we can't really deport them until they do that. But no, they're with Tampon Timmy. Well, the idea is this: that it was too much too soon with the sexuality changes that they tried to invoke during the Obama and the not so much the Obama, but mostly the Biden administration. Well, you caused, I guess it was during Obama also, to have that other person feel comfortable also. So you as the government have to figure out how to balance that. Right. And you don't, because you make money making, polarizing an issue. Ooh, thank you, Larry. Well, I explained it when Trump was in the first time that you're all pushing too far in the wrong direction as far as, people trying to force the co-ed bathroom. I said, you got 70-something-year-old women that have a right not to have a co-ed bathroom. I mean, that's the norm. It's not violating somebody's rights. You have to come up with an answer that fits both sides. And that's quite honestly providing single stall bathrooms. And I gave you that answer. It's that simple. And I think somebody did I think maybe even the Biden people did put money into that. Right. So again, that's one place where they may have went in the right direction. Thanks, Larry. Well, the government is not supposed to be there to just take a political stance. It's how to if you want to move things right, how do you move it right so it doesn't violate the ethic of republicanism or conservatism. Conservatism doesn't cause waves. Right? You're actually you all hate progressive. You're actually progressively conservative. And again, if you're a conservative and if we bring, and I got on Elon and Doge about this, if you don't have a certain program, it's going to cost money. You don't spite people, just to spite people, you destroy a program that saves us money in the end. The idea of putting everybody in prison is like the worst idea in the world. We go broke doing it. Right? But again, as much fraud, waste, and abuse there is in the world, Jesus, I don't know if it even matters anymore. Well, that's the weird part. Is the deep state's coming against my disability, right? They know if they keep operating me, I'll never get out of the trap they put me in. So they just keep doing it. But yet, all these immigrants came in here and got the money that I should have got. And I don't hear that I make enough money because I don't. Based upon my work, actually, somebody would have hired me if the deep state wasn't there. Just for my magic, I'd have been hired as like a producer or something, right? Planet was given opportunities. Somebody was taking me into the filming industry and then or the movie industry and all that, maybe even just like bit parts and stuff. And within 5 minutes, they killed it. There was definitely somebody present, and they told them no. I didn't even ask him anything. He just said, "Hey." Right. They were watching. As soon as they saw him talk to me, they sent him the high sign, and they said, "No, that guy, you don't associate with that guy." Like, well, why do we do that? Because you're devils. Right. No, somebody. I tell you, this is where it all starts. Somebody's going to be something until they're not, and they're not going to be it till they are, and that's bound in metaphysics. No matter what you say you're doing. So the answer to being trans is to not be trans if that's your answer, but then you have to move it metaphysically. Or it doesn't work. If you can't heal it, then that's who they are. It's just not going to change. But again, if you read the New Testament, it explains the evil eye. That's pretty much what it does. Again, when I woke up, I didn't say, "Oh, the New Testament explains the evil eye." It didn't happen like that. Right. Now, I knew metaphysics, but I never thought that it could be that simple. So what is it? What the New Testament's doing is showing things, and then it says, but there's a causation. And you can be innocent because of that causation. Right. Now, Rabbi Yeshua went as far as to saying If you don't know and you sin, you'll be beaten lightly in hell. But if you're given much and you know, which is really who the devils really are, right, then you'll suffer horrible things in hell. At this point, again, we're centuries, ages later, the witchcraft became bigger, the evil eye became bigger, became accepted even more so. So what happened? You're not even going to hell. It's that simple. Now, I believe some of the Catholics knew that over the years, but they were afraid to say it. Because you see the term innocent come up. Right? So that's a sign that they had the realization of innocence. Charles Manson, he's not in hell. He was possessed his whole life from childhood. But that's not everybody, believe me. Everybody gets possessed, but the question is, do you possess others? That's where he never possessed people. All right, stay peaceful, pray to God in all that you do.